Yeah, I mean, you've touched on the core component to all business growth, which is people will always come to you with their own words and their limited view, and they'll ask for something. And it's usually a tactic, right? I need a website. Anyone who does website development and stuff, they can answer the question, you need a website? I'll give you a website. But the real opportunity is like, why do you need a website? What are you hoping it'll accomplish for you? How is it going to drive your business? How is it going to grow your business? Is this a good use of spend? Should you actually not be dumping this much time and money into a website, but actually be looking at maybe a landing page or a funnel strategy? Or maybe not even that. Maybe you should actually just not spend however much time and money on the website because what you have is kind of okay, and you should actually go do corporate sponsorship or go to a live event or go network. Like out of everything that one could do, if all you do is build websites, then of course when someone comes to you for a website, you're going to say, oh, I can make you a website. But if you take a step back and go like, hold on, what do you want this to do for you? And what are your goals? And who are we speaking to? And what are their motivations? And how are they going to move forward through it? And is this part one of an 8-part thing you have imagined? And what, like, once you start to, again, take, as you mentioned, ownership over the outcome, how will this help your business? Not only does it shift where you have more power and control as a creative or a salesperson or a business owner or what have you, frankly, it differentiates you. You can charge more. You can work on bigger projects. You can have more control over your profit margins because, again, you're moving away from that idea of just being an order taker.
Yep. And your journey is really interesting. I didn't realize that when you started, you essentially utilized your corporate job. You're working for somebody to now leverage this, this company that you're creating, this freelance situation that you set up by saying, hey, I'm going to continue to do this same work, but I want to be paid as an entity, as a separate company, as opposed to being your employee. But I assume that you probably had to get clients from outside of that as well. Was it hard to get people to take you seriously as somebody who's just starting this new business? And how do you work around that?
Yeah, that's why we almost went bankrupt. Because I didn't realize anything. I thought, like, again, I came from the world of like people needed videos and I'm going to make a video. And so I just walked around saying like, do you need a video? Company, do you need a video? Does anyone need a video? Hey, does anyone need a video made? I'm the guy who can make one. Not realizing like no one thinks that way. And so a few things went wrong. One, I'm so happy that everything went the way it did. I don't think I would have had the courage to start Phanta Media without that company and that CEO saying, yeah, okay, go and we'll outsource to you. But they didn't outsource to me, frankly. Like we had a bunch of projects in the work. We had worked with them to project how much money they would give us and how much they would spend. And let's say it was like 50 grand in projects for the year is what we anticipated. Something like we were 3 months in and only like 4 grand had happened. Almost everything. So the reason I left was because they did a lot of work we shouldn't have been doing. And they were spending quote unquote money. They were spending my salary, my time on stuff that didn't matter. I said, let me leave and it'll bring some structure around what we're working on because we're doing lots of stuff that doesn't matter. And as soon as there's a price tag put to it, your team's going to start to question whether we should do this or not. What I didn't realize is when we left, they questioned everything. They questioned every project and cut every project. And they're like, oh, we don't want to spend money on any of this.
They finally listened to you.
Yeah. So it was really hard. And I was using family and friends and I was just trying to figure out what I could. But honestly, I didn't know how to explain what we did. I didn't understand the value. I didn't know who to reach out to or who to speak to. I didn't know how to speak to them. And so I had no marketing plan at the time. I had nothing. Like I just kind of jumped into it. And so 5 months in, frankly, I was like, we were running out of money because my wife didn't have any money. I didn't have any money. We borrowed like from my mom, like a $25,000 line of credit, and we had some savings, and we were just like eating it up. And so I hit this.
You're starting a family and a business at the same time. Yeah,
it was a bit ambitious. Actually, by year two, the government forced us onto social assistance because for a family of 3, like a couple with a child, and we were living so below the poverty line. Our first year, I only made 18 grand. We lived so below the poverty line, even at that time in our city, that the government put us on social assistance, and it was like really tough. But I hired a coach. I hired a business coach because I was 5 months in and I could already see that we were going to run out of cash in about 4 or 5 months. And it was just going to be like this 1 year blip. It was literally going to turn into like, well, that didn't work out. And I didn't want that to happen. So I hired a coach and I just laid it all on the line. I said, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know. I don't know any of this stuff. I don't know what to do. And we started on the basics. Who might pay you to make a video? What kind of companies? What kind of departments? What would be the difference between, say, like a communications department or an HR department or a marketing department? Like really basic stuff that I hadn't thought about. But I think many of us who jump into business hope that like people will do something and we'll be like, here we are, world. I have arrived. I am here. Go ahead and start giving me money. And people are like this. Cricket, cricket, cricket. Nobody cares. And so I was like, I was really caught off guard thinking like people need videos. I make videos. I will sell videos. And at a certain point, it actually became that easy. But it was after I'd figured out who am I speaking to and what do they care about and how do I explain it and how do I get in front of them and how do I advertise and what, how do we package it and how do we price it? Like once I figured all that stuff out a few years in, it literally became as easy as you need something, we can do it for you. Let's get started. But it took time.
Yeah. And it sounds like, and a lot of things I've read about the company and how you all work with individuals and just how you've now defined who you all are, there's a lot of language around kind of overcoming imposter syndrome and not feeling like you are enough or can be enough for what you want to try to accomplish. What are some of the things that maybe you did for yourself in that area and also some of the things that you work with your clients to help them overcome those same kind of thoughts?
Well, 15 years in, the person that I am and my approach to business is totally different than it would have been year 1 or even year 5 or even frankly 2 or 3 years ago. 2018, 2019, I'm a totally different entrepreneur than I was even then. And so part of it is just recognizing that every few years you're going to shift and you're going to change. Whether the market shifts and changes, your competitors do, or you choose to or you're forced to, it's going to happen. And I used to believe that it was this, I used to carry this feeling of like, why can't I just land on something? Why do I keep changing it and tweaking it and trying to make it better? Like, why can't I just pick something and stick with it and make my life easier? And I realized like, that's not how business works. It's always changing. It's something that always has to take place. The other thing that I learned kind of the hard way is a business will only grow to the level of its leader. And when the leader is either not feeling confident or not feeling bold, when the leader isn't hopeful of the future or optimistic of what could be, when the leader isn't pushing, frankly, harder than anyone else to go faster, to go further, to do that big thing, when the leader isn't doing that, no one else on your team will. But you also start to lose momentum, you start to lose your edge, you start to lose things. So when you talk about the work that we do today, really at Phanta Media, we're a brand strategy company. So we've taken the 15 years, over that time, we produced $13 million in creative content for some of the largest international brands, some of the coolest startups, some of the smallest companies. We've done a lot of work from like engagements that were like, hey, help us with an email marketing campaign, to full-blown national television commercials where we're being like flown to the Caribbean and we have like our own hold in the plane. And like, we're just, the project ranges so much, but we've looked at everything that we've done over 15 years at all of the millions of dollars of creative content we've produced. And it always came down to the same things. What we were really good at, better than others at, what we're really good at is just taking a no bullshit approach to like, what are the actual objectives? What do you actually want? Who are we speaking to? What do they actually care about? Like, what are their motivations? What are their desires? What are their fears? What are their preconceived notions? Are they skeptical or not skeptical? Are they operating from a risk aversion point of view or a place of hope and they want growth? What did they see before they came to you? What are they going to see after they come to you? Are they brand aware or not? Like, we ask a lot of questions and we dig really deep because these things matter. And so we're better than anyone else at helping you figure out what you need and want, who your audiences are, and then what your competition is doing. And I realized that those three core elements, what you want, what your audience wants, and what your competition is or is not doing in the marketplace, that in itself is literally brand strategy. That's when we did a television commercial campaign, I had to work with, frankly, people sometimes who just didn't like, we want to do these 80 different things because we need to make every corporate person happy. And it's like, okay, Well, which are the ones that actually matter though? Because we can't possibly do all 80 of them. And I would
Gotta
have to like, narrow it
prioritize.
down. Yeah. And your audiences, who do you want to speak to? And it's like, well, like we're talking to people 55 plus. Okay, great. Like there's a lot of different people who are older than 55 years old, right? Like what do they care about and what do they want? And what are their deepest desires? We've done market research off the top of my head. Like for example, and I don't want to be too generalist, but like as women get older, they tend to require security more. And as a woman ages, her focus on security tends to focus on like security in relationships, security in money, like in finance. Like there are things that as women get older, men don't experience. As men get older, they tend to actually care about security less because they want to relive their youth. And like so like we would like dig into these types of psychological and emotional and socioeconomic elements to bring them into our project. So once you do all of this stuff, you realize like, oh, if you can just help people actually figure out what they want, actually figure out who they're talking to and what they want, like just tell people what they want to hear. Like tell people what they want to hear. You will get their attention. They will become engaged. And then when they enter into a conversation with you, and if you do it in a way that your competition isn't doing it, you will be unique. You will stand out. You will be different. You will tell people what they want to hear. They will go like their ears will open up. Their ears will perk up. They'll go, ooh, someone's telling me what I want. Politicians do this all the time. I don't know why we don't do this in business. But then once you've entered in the conversation, then you can shift it from what they want and understand to what they need to hear, what you need to educate them on, what you need to inform them on, how you have to shift. But most business people are so principled that they go to market with what they know is right. Like, this is the right way to do this. This is the right way to go about it. This is what you don't understand. They get into arguments with people when they're like, no, you don't understand what I'm trying to say. No, that's our fault.
Yes,
we meet people where they are at. We enter into a conversation with them. And then once they're in the conversation, we have basically influence and authority, especially if you set this up properly, where you can then shift them to where they need to be and give them what they actually need and not what they want. That is what I figured out that we've always done, what we continue to do. And that's why most of our language around imposter syndrome and around all these other things is because we're meeting the people we work with where they're at, which is, if you look better, if you show up better, if you say the right things, if you have confidence, your business is going to take off. Trust me. Like, it's not rocket science. I've been through it hundreds of times before.
Well, and I think you've said so many gems in there, but I think one of the key things that you mentioned is, first of all, defining who your audience is, and then understanding who that audience actually is at its core level. So yes, you define now it's women between a certain age. Okay, now what are their sentiments? What is it, the things that are present of mind for them on a daily basis? Let's not try to go against that. Let's try to lean right into how they're living their life or how they're thinking about the world, and how can we position ourselves that they're going to see us as being attractive to what they're trying to, find within their life, or to help to find maybe alternatives to what they are trying to find in their life. And I think as you're kind of talking about that, it made me think about, how we tell the story of our own companies and how we position ourselves to these audiences. But there's this fine line that I think, and I want to get your perspective on this, is there this fine line of giving this perception of your company, but still being truthful and honest, that you're not over exaggerating who you are? Because you don't want to end up in a situation where you're over promising what your company can deliver on or who they actually are. So is there a delicate balance between perception versus reality?
100%. The problem is, your greatest fear is what keeps it from being right-sized. You just said, I don't want to make really big promises because I'm worried that my perception will be higher than my ability to deliver. I'm going to be honest with you. We're all so worried about that what it creates is the opposite. We are actually way more awesome than we look. So perception is truth. Chris, if I think you're a jerk, it doesn't matter if you're a jerk or not, you're a jerk. Because I only saw this little window of time. I didn't see your relationships. I didn't see maybe how you are as a son or a sibling, or I didn't see you maybe in like a faith-based setting. Like, I didn't see any of those pictures. I just saw you coming along being a jerk. So in my mind, you're a jerk. Perception is truth. Perception is truth. The problem is, most of us are actually not bragging. We're not out there. we're not being bold enough. We're not saying enough. We're playing it so safe that we're actually way more awesome than we really are, than we look. So our perception and how awesome we are is flipped from what you're saying. You're saying, I'm worried that I'm going to be so bold. I'm going to make such big promises. I'm going to come out swinging so hard with so much grit or so much flavor or so much attitude or looking so awesome that people are going to be like, I have to work with this person. And then they're going to get going and they're going to be like, oh gosh, you suck. That's imposter syndrome right there, right? Like that is the problem with personal brands for sure. And entrepreneurial, small business, owner-operated type brands. 100%. This is why people work with us, because we actually give them the data and the insight and the information to make them feel confident enough to make bold actions, when frankly, we don't even need that. Like I don't need to go out and find the data to make you confident, but I do, because if I just said be confident, you wouldn't be.
Yep.
So
we
yeah,
need that extra
it's
reassurance.
Exactly flipped.
I like that. I like that a lot.